Hey guys, the new Gear Dungeon 2 or Gear Aid 5 just dropped recently, and it's been kind of hell. I've been trying to beat stage 6, which I do think I can do, despite it being probably the hardest stage in the game by far. And in the meantime, I've been kind of taking a break, trying to film a stage 5 minimum character requirement guide. And that's what I have for you guys today. So, before we get into it, I have to show you guys, these are the teams that people are using. Like, this team is very impressive. This team with Setrum, that's pretty cool, and all this stuff. But most of the teams you're gonna see use Ardea, they use Ardea, they use Ardea, Lego Lords everywhere. You're not gonna find many teams with no Lego Lords, if any at all. Maybe there's one here, and mine down here. So, pretty cool stuff. It's really hard to do, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it now. So first of all, here's the team. The team here, obviously Epic Lords. We have Hatsit for the top right. She's not required for it, but you have to use her or Silas or something, and then you have to use some jank strat for the rest, which you kind of need Ardea for, because Ardea kind of like does all the work. And I don't know, it's a mess. But if you have Hatsit, it'll be a lot easier. I'm using Baron as a tank, Olag also as a tank. Arrogance is going to be our main damage dealer for the bottom. I know it looks like he's A5, but his gear is a lot worse than I could make it, purely because I wanted to balance it out a little bit. You can do it pretty easily with an A0 Arrogance. You do not need his A5 or A3 or anything. Just try to get him at all. And then you got Zillatu. Zillatu is there purely for magic damage, so that when the magic unit right here comes by, you can kill it, and then Hatsit will kill the physical damage one, and all will be well. And then we have Lunaria, who's purely there to give Silas some slightly extra range. And then we have Lily, who also needs the extra range in order to heal Hatsit. She will be placed on this tile, healing Hatsit. And then Hollow, because I didn't want to use Elowin. I wanted to be one of the only people not to use Elowin in a guide, because Elowin is borderline required. And then we have Olag, like I said earlier. So this is the team. I'll show the gear at the end, but let's get into the work. So the start of this fight is really, really weird, where if you're doing it with no legendary lord or anything, you kind of want to use Wrath first, just so that he can kill enemy. He is overgeared a little bit, so you don't need his gear to be anywhere near as good as it is right now. And also, I don't have Invig on Hollow, although I do recommend it. So that's why I just placed them early. They don't need to place that early. Wrath is going to kill this guy, and then you're going to sell him immediately, and then place Arrogance at the back, and then your tank at the front. Baron. But you do want to wait for that kind of explodey guy to disappear. The explodey guy does many hundreds of thousands. Silas on the left essentially want to trigger his ult whenever the enemies get close, and he's going to clear the entire left side. He's not built as well as I could have built him, but so you should be able to kind of replicate that. And then Arrogance is going to do his job. He's also not geared too crazy. So at the top, you want to place Olag, you want to place Lily, and you want to place Zillatu. Ideally, you would place Zillatu earlier and then ult, and that would be good. And then you also want to place Hatsit around when that red guy is almost dead, just in case. Hatsit, you want to build full attack, ideally Soulbound Arcana or Ageless Wrath, and then you want to ult when it looks like they're getting free, and then you'll end up them there in one ult, and that's on stage 6. It does take 2 ults, but as you can see, all the lanes are covered. Silas left, Arrogance bottom, Hatsit, Zillatu are covering the top. You could cycle Zillatu with like a Raka if you have a Raka and you're using instead of an area. You just sell Zillatu, put a Raka down, but then you have to build more HP on your heroes because the boss will get more damage out and end up doing more damage to everyone, so you have to compensate for that. Personally, I just have it a certain way that I don't need to pick up Zillatu because it doesn't heal enemy right here enough, and boom, we clear it. So you essentially just want to build your Hatsit really well, your Zillatu pretty well, and you want to just kind of have to fine-tune their gear in order to kind of optimize. And we just kind of rinse and repeat this. So There are a lot of different areas where it can be a bit rough. Like around here is where I wasn't able to use Volca anymore. I was trying to use Volca. I was getting 40 out of 40 enemies killed, but there were a couple left that just I couldn't beat because I wasn't using like Corridor or anything. So because of that, I had to bring Arrogance. You could use Volca to clear, but it is a little bit harder. If you have like Elder or something for stage 6, you can Volca for that one, but it is a bit. As you can see, I am going to trigger my Silent Assault slightly earlier this time, just because you can struggle a little bit where the archers will actually kill your Silas and then walk through, and you have to like put Wrath down and then cause a bunch of issues. And personally, I just don't deal with that. I would this way, and boom, there we go. Now we just got to deal with the rest of the stage. Wrath, obviously, to save, beat him, and we should be able to clear the top, which we have, and then the bottom is now the only thing left. Luckily, Baron still has his like unyielding, so we should be good. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole stage. It looks a lot easier than it is. It is very difficult. Second hardest stage in the game, only second to stage 6, which I am working on, and hopefully that'll be out eventually. But yeah, so this is how you beat stage 5, at least quote unquote the easiest way. It's still not easy. You still need really good gear, and you know, a good strategy, some pretty important heroes like Hatsit. It's very hard to beat this with no Hatsit. There's no way I'm trying, even though it's possible. If you want to see that guide, just ask. Yeah, so that's the entire thing. Definitely a very difficult stage. Very difficult, and this took me a very long time to film, so I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, so let's kind of go over the gear after we show the stats. Those are the stats. Ability just there for the magic damage, you know, Hat's there for a lot of things. Arrogance is the most because of enemies. Yeah, let's look at the gear. Alright, so now that that is done, which was miserable to get done, but with Arrogance it's so much easier. I did try to use Volca so hard. I got to 40 out of 40 enemies killed with Volca before dying, just because that's how it ended up going, and I just gave up and used Arrogance instead, so that's why that's in there. But yeah, so Wrath does not need like any gear, because as you can see, I didn't use him very much, but I was trying to use him really well with Volca, so his gear is better than it should be. You could definitely make his gear a lot worse, as long as he kills that enemy at the beginning. You could do it in a couple other ways, but as long as he just does a little bit of damage and a bit of tankiness, doesn't really matter too much. Artifact doesn't really matter too much. He's overgeared, essentially. Hatsit, you want to build with more attack. The thing is, I had this really good piece right here, so that's why I'm not doing that. But you do want to build her with a little bit more attack, as best Soulbound Arcana set as you can get, because you want her to kill everything in one burst. In stage 6, you do need her to burst 2 times, so you have to build her with Radiant, but for this one, you don't have to. And because she's getting healed, we can put an Angel Gaze on her, which is perfect. Baron has typical tank gear, pretty good tank gear, obviously, Bastion Ring. And then Arrogance has, you know, a decent Infernal Roar set. It could be a lot better. I could make it a lot better. Like, the gear is good, don't get me wrong, but once again, nothing too crazy, at least for the second hardest stage in the game, second only to stage 6. Zilla has some pretty good gear too. You want to build her more attack. You want to build all these heroes with more attack than otherwise. Realm Terror on her. You could use Frigid Flame probably, but whatever. Something to note about Zilla though, do not put a Wailing Skull on her. The Wailing Skull, despite her doing magic damage, does physical damage, and that'll counteract her damage, make it so you can't kill the things because they'll heal too much off of the Wailing Skull damage, and then you'll just lose off of that. Lunaria, we don't place at all, doesn't really matter. I just auto-equipped her earlier. Lily, I would recommend Invig, so you can give Invig to Zilla or something, but she is just kind of in some basic stuff. This is not good gear. She doesn't have any attack on this build, so I would build her better. Silas, ideally you want to build a little bit more attack as well. I just kind of slapped on whatever we had and called it a day, because he's in one of the lesser Infernal Roar sets compared to the other people. Hollow, you also want to build an Invig. I just feel like I felt like limiting myself a little bit. Euphoric Orb, And then Olog is built like a random tank. Gear is pretty lacking for this stage, honestly. Like, obviously, the damage dealers that are good, like Hatsit, Arrogance, Zilla2, all have really good gear. But the healers and the tanks have pretty mediocre, really attainable gear. So it is definitely something you can recreate. And yeah, so that's how you beat it with the limited gear, or not limited gear, limited heroes, which honestly killed me a lot. As you can see from everyone around here and everyone I've seen, we have by far the least epics. This is the first guy I've ever seen that is, first of all, a low level and has only like these lords, so props to him. Really, really impressive. I don't know how he uses Carnelian, but he clearly has her doing a lot of work. So yeah, very, very impressive there. I'm really impressed with it. But if you wanna beat it with less heroes, this is how you do it. I know it's still a lot of heroes, like you need Hatsit. As you can see, there is no teams you'll find with no Hatsit, except maybe Ronaldo. Ronaldo has a good guide with no Hatsit, as you can see, this guy is using that team. And yeah, so if you have Megamus, you can use no Hatsit. Have Ardia and stuff, you don't have to use Hatsit, but it is still very, very hard. So hopefully this helps. I just figured like I would show it off for you guys because it's really, really interesting, and I'm very happy with the strategy. I will hopefully have a stage 6 guide out pretty soon, but I will be working on behind the scenes. It's going to be very heavy whale territory, but I will not be using Ardia, which is really, really tough. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, so that's it from me. Thank you guys for watching. Destined, signing out.